We'll call the regular meeting of the New Ulm City Council for November 7th, 2017, 4:30 PM to order. First item on the agenda is your consent agenda items. What's your
I'll
wishes?
offer a motion to approve those, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items. Any discussion on any? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 2A, conduct a public hearing to consider a resolution adopting final assessment roles for the 2016 MSAS Improvement Project. Mr. Kaler?
Thank you, Mr. President. This was a project we did in 2016. It's a 3-block segment of German Street from 16th to 19th South, and then 1 block of 17th South from German to Minnesota Street. We have levied recommended special assessments and sent notices to the affecting property owners. I have not received any written correspondence with regard to this, so you could open it up for the public hearing.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anybody like to be heard? We have 2 of them here, German Street, 16th South to 19th South Street. And we have 17th South Street from German to Minnesota Street. Anybody like to be heard? If not, entertain a motion.
I will offer the resolution to close the public hearing and adopt a final assessment roll for the 2016 MSAS improvement project payable over a 10-year period, along with 3.2 simple interest charge on the unpaid balance.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to offer the resolution. Waived reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none. Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 2B, conduct a public hearing on a petition for improvements on alley in block 152 north of Center Street. Mr. Gaylor?
Thank you, Mr. President. The city received a petition from the several property owners on the block and alley 152 North. You can see from the request for council action form of the 700 linear feet of frontage, 300 feet of owner's sign, which is 42.8% of the property. We have sent notices to the affected property owners, so you could open it up for the public hearing. I have not received any comments or written comments.
Anybody like to be heard? Don't we normally, on this one, go with kind of the 50% rule? Or,
Mr. President,
No, we don't have to.
it has not been a written policy. The state statute requires 35% in frontage sign for the petition to get a hearing, but it would be up to the city council with regard to ordering in the improvement.
In my mind, that's a question that'll come up on the next alley improvement, which I did get numerous phone calls on. I mean, I've sat in a lot of these meetings when I was a building official, and normally we had used that 50% rule. I mean, do 50% want it? We put it in. Do we go down to 42%, the linear footage?
any more comments?
I think we should move forward with it, and, if we get the property owners that want it and support it, and it's improving the property values of the neighborhood.
And we don't have any opposition here, neither was
Correct.
there any
Nobody's-
phone calls or letters.
Right.
I guess I'd feel a bit differently if we had a lot of opposition here tonight. So,
Okay.
I'll make the motion then to waive or close the public hearing and offer the resolution, waive the reading, finding sufficiency of petition, closing the public hearing, order the improvements and the preparation of plans and specifications for the alley in block 152 north of Center Street.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second to offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? You just happened to walk into the meeting. Are you here for block 152 north of Center? Alley? Okay.
No.
Thank you. Seeing none. Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
No.
President Schmitz?
Yes. Motion carries. Do we have to? No. Yeah. Okay. Item 2C, conduct a public hearing on a petition for improvements on alley block 10 south of Center Street. Steve, same thing?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. President, the signers on this petition were 550 feet of the 700 feet for 78.6%. This afternoon, one of the property owners, a husband and wife property owner who own 100 feet of it, of frontage, came in and decided that they didn't want to be part of the petition, but or that they were not in favor of the improvement. So if you deduct that to 450 linear feet, it's still 64% of the signers signed the petition. So you could, I have not received anything written and only that one phone call. You could have a discussion or open up to the public hearing.
Okay. Public hearing. Anybody like to be heard? Block 10, south of Center.
On this discussion, this is the one, I did receive several phone calls, it's down in my ward. They did have the percentage to go with it, but a couple of the property owners claimed they were never contacted by the petition person, and the first that they knew about it was when they got their public notice. So I did go through it with them about the 35% rule. Normally, the council, 50% or more, does do it, but even with the change, them not being contacted, they did have the public notification. You're still well over the 50% mark. I just said I would bring it up that they thought the notice, just getting the public notice, like, bam, I'm gonna get an alley, there's a public hearing, they claim it was the first they had heard of it. The petitioner failed to contact a couple of property owners.
And what you're saying, they were not supportive.
Correct, they were not supportive of it.
So it's part of that 36%.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, entertain a motion.
I'm going to go ahead and offer a resolution, waive the reading, finding sufficiency of the petition to close the public hearing and order the improvements in the preparation of plans and specifications for the alley in Block 10 south of Center Street. We do have more than that 50%, so.
I'll second it because we do have well above the 50%.
We got a motion, a second to offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 2D, conduct a public hearing on a petition for improvements on alley block 143 south of Center Street. Mr. Kaler.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pretty much the same. This particular petition, there was 475 feet of the 700 front footage, which is just under 68% of the property owners signed the petition. So you could open it up for public hearing. I did not receive any written comments or phone calls on this.
Okay, public hearing. Anybody like to be heard? Seeing none? Anybody have any discussion? Otherwise, entertain a motion.
Well, I just been make a note that we're at 67.9%, you know, again, so it's over 50%. So I'll offer the motion for the resolution and waive the reading, finding sufficient petition, closing the public hearing, order the improvements and preparation plans and specs for the alley in block 143 south of Center Street.
Second.
We got a motion, a second, offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 3A, number 1, consider a recommendation from the Board of Zoning Adjustments to transfer its duties and responsibilities of the Planning Commission and direct the city attorney to prepare an ordinance for this purpose. Mr. Grummett? Get someone that one?
On your issue sheet, you do have correspondence from Mr. Schnobrick, Community Development Director, which gives you the background of zoning in the United States and as well as here in the city of New Ulm, going back a few years. I believe the recommendation is that the Board of Zoning Adjustment are currently members of the Planning Commission. A smaller group of the Planning Commission constitutes the Board of Adjustment, and quite honestly, it would be simpler if the two entities were the same, so there's, so business can be done at the same time. I don't see an issue with the recommendation, given the fact that many communities in Minnesota task one board to do both. Both of these tasks, which are very similar. One is more, I'll call it judge-oriented, making decisions, Board of Zoning Adjustment, as compared to the Planning Commission is a little bit more, I think, administrative. This is how things should work as a whole. The same information is needed for both groups of people, because if you don't know how things are supposed to work, how can you make a quasi-judicial decision? So it would streamline things, and it would simplify things. And I would go along with the recommendation from the Community Development Director.
I like the idea myself. The past experience, I was the liaison with the Board of Zoning Adjustment for 9-10 years, and the Board of Zoning Director and the Planning Director would constantly have to be going back and forth. 2 agendas would go out. It'll simplify things. You know, one board knowing they're going to approve something at one meeting, okay, but we've got to approve this to go with it, conditional use, whatever it is at the next. I think it's a great idea. With that, I'll motion to approve the recommendation of the Board of Zoning Adjustment, transfer its duties and responsibilities to the Planning Commission, and direct the city attorney to prepare an ordinance for this purpose.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Just a real quick comment on this topic. You know, I sat on this for 4 years, sat on both boards, and what we just talked about is true. Do we have any concern about people that want to look for zoning specific, that, do we want to keep the title, planning of the Board of Zoning Adjustment and Planning Commission? Do we want to keep the name separate, or don't think it really matters? People are looking for the zoning commission and we don't have one, and where is it? And I don't know, I'm just asking for future reference if we want to keep that longer title. Doesn't matter? I'm okay with getting rid of it, just was asking the question.
I would think that anybody who was looking
It's gonna figure it out.
would call the city, and the city would then guide them to,
Planning Commission?
eventually, not eventually, but almost immediately guide them to Mr. Schnobreck.
I just don't know if it would keep
Over.
things a little clearer, just, not for us, we know what's going on, but for the public.
Members of the city council.
Is your microphone?
Typically, when it comes to issues like this, people are more interested, where do I get a variance? The name of the board really isn't the concern or the question that's being asked. It's, how do I do this? And so, you know, so I don't know that the
don't see an
name of the
issue.
body is
Okay.
going to have
Just wanna double
any
check.
impact.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Well, never
Okay,
mind.
we have a motion and a second. No more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 3B, number 1, receive a notice from the Planning Commission and order it filed on the proposed transfer of duties and responsibilities from the Board of Zoning and adjustments to the Planning Commission.
I'll offer the motion.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 3B, number 2, consider a resolution approving the petition from Scott Dirkman on behalf of All Store Incorporated to amend the city comprehensive plan to allow business land to be used in place of the medium-density residential land used at 2122, 2136 Highland Avenue, North Highland Avenue.
I'd just like to add, the planning commission met and recommended approval of it. And went back to the history of the property, and originally it was dedicated for B2 business. And then it was changed to R3 at one point in time when another developer was developing land in the area there across from Carl Drive, if I was understanding, had purchased the land. And then the Dreckmans had purchased the land when it was in forfeiture. They're looking just to square off to continue to square off the corner of the property. There still would be a section available there for R3 housing, and then on Garden Street, that would be for B2 business for future use. And we did have a petition submitted. It's in your packet, and I do believe the party is here tonight that did submit the petition. I don't know if they wish to be heard, or...
Stand up by the mic, name and address for the record then.
Elaine Paulson. I live at 8 Liberty Street, right by the property. And we bought in that area because the stuff around us was supposed to be residential. Now you're changing it back to the business, and I can understand it was business before, and it seems that's the way what you want to do. We sent a petition of 50 people around that neighborhood to prefer to see it stay residential. But I guess they really don't count. That was what we were kind of told that night. I think more people would be here, but I think they get the feeling that they really aren't going to be heard, so they don't come. Another thing there, the water, when the city did Highland Avenue, they lowered Liberty Street so all the water would come off of Highland and drain onto Liberty Street. So when we have heavy rains, we not only get water off of Liberty Street, Highland Street, plus all the fields behind us. So I have a concern if they're going to put in this property over there and that water's going to be drained into drains, and they're not going to have a pond over there, that we're going to have more water sitting there, and it's going to take a long time to drain it off. We've had water up as high as door handles on cars sit there. So that's a concern. And they said they weren't looking at a pond. My other concern is you're going to change this to business when the next time they come along, they want some other property changed right there to business. Is that going to happen too, or is it, or is it just what happens when you want something to happen, somebody's going to buy it, you just change it to what they need? There was an issue that said there was not enough property for homes to be built on, this type of property built on. Then you opened up Milford because you said there wasn't enough building spaces, and now you're putting in a street. The street's already there, the utilities are already there. It'd be ideal for more housing. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else like to be heard?
Is it possible for the IT staff to put the map up there so the public can see what we're talking about, the little triangle pie, that we're not conditional use or rezoning the whole entire property? It's just a little pie corner, actually straightening out the parcel that Dreckman has his sheds on, just so the general public could see that, like, what are they looking at doing? Could he do that?
I don't think he can.
Can't. Okay.
We have to.
Maybe Dave, do you have a copy of it that we could put on the overhead?
Just,
This one probably.
Right.
This one.
it's just so they know what. So we can point that out.
Okay, so this is North Island Avenue.
Microphone, Dave.
What's that?
Microphone.
Okay, so North Highland Avenue is located here, North Garden Street. This is Runnings. Carl Drive. So this is the current location of All-Store. And so the proposal, you can see the dark line here. This is the triangular piece of property that is proposed for, it's a comp plan amendment, it's a rezoning, it's an issuance of a conditional use permit, and they're also proposing to plat the property. So there are 4 items related to this particular project. And then, at the present time, the property here is zoned for business use. It's a combination of B2 and B3. And the property here would be remain zoned R3, where the comprehensive plan classification is MDR.
I have one other question for with the Community Development Director. His memory is way better than mine. Years back when we had done some items out there, when Dreckman built those facilities, wasn't a holding pond supposed to go in?
Steve, the city engineer would probably be better able to address that drainage question than I would.
Mr. President, the rules that were in place at the time did not require them to construct a pond on site. They did do a type of retention area. Now with this new development, we've asked them to submit their stormwater plan to us. They can take advantage of the large regional pond that we constructed down on North Highland or North Broadway at 23rd North. So there certainly is a stormwater component that serves that area, but we still want to see what their rate of discharge is going to be, so to make sure that they fit into the current rules. So they were not required originally to do the pond under the rules that were in place at the time, but they have changed, so we need to consider that.
And when the council gets to the item on the agenda concerning the conditional use permit, you'll notice that there are a number of conditions that address the stormwater issue.
I guess I would like to add that the planning commission also, where we see the pie shape, we have Shell's Brewery across the street. And the commission was looking at it that we have another business across the street where they have got future land. Shell's has the 10-acre parcel just on the other side of the hoses, and then they have their other 10 acres. So we felt with recommendation, that the business would serve the needs there. Also, there was not going to be any driveway on North Highland there. They would be entering in, they have one entry in on Garden Street for the facility. So there's not going to be any extra traffic or anything like that onto North Highland.
I just wanted to mention it so the individual knows that the city is not going to just let them take all the water, surface water from, if they approve the extension, and dump it into the street.
Right now, quite a bit of water sits in that area. And there's heavy rains or in the spring, right by where that line is, there's big ponds that's there. But it is drains there.
So, Mr. President, Councilor Mack, at your meeting, was there discussion about what our petitioners worried about is the future of that whole other additional area there being converted back to commercial? Was there discussion about protecting that area and making that residential? What was the discussion about that?
Dave Schnobert said, it's zoned R3, so another apartment type complex could be built there sometime down the line.
Residential, it wouldn't be another business going up.
Correct. But the front half of the property is zoned, on Garden Street is zoned B2/B3.
On the front side of that, okay.
Maybe Dave could.
Can you
Yeah,
outline
members
that?
of the city council, also at that meeting, Seth Dreckman was present, and he indicated that they would be looking for some type of multifamily use in that area. So we're referring to this particular area right here.
Right,
So
okay.
this area will be some type of business use in the future.
But keeping the residential up where the other residential areas are, which is what I hear our petitioners want.
And where Shell's brought Has that been changed from residential?
No, it hasn't.
So Shell's could put Shell's acres in their estate in it. I mean, I don't be a thing for that, but, so we don't know what Shell's gonna do with it.
At the present time, the property that was purchased by Shells is still zoned R3. So in order for them to do something that would be of a industrial or commercial nature would require rezoning of the property. I might note that the representatives of the company, though, did indicate that they didn't see them using the property for a residential purpose.
And isn't there a condition later on in one of these, like the conditional use, isn't there a condition that the other side of that property remain zoned residential?
There's
There was no.
no condition that that take place.
I thought that there was.
Anybody else like to be heard? According to here, the planning commission unanimously recommends it, so I guess I'd entertain a motion one way or the other.
I'm going to go ahead and offer a resolution, waive the reading, approving the petition of Scott Drickman on behalf of All-Star to amend the city's comprehensive plan to allow business land uses in place of medium-density residential land uses at 2122 to 2136 North Island Avenue.
I'm going to second that.
We got a motion and a second to offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 3B, number 3, consider a motion approving the petition from Scott Dirkman on behalf of All Store Incorporated to rezone from R3 multifamily residential district to B2 service business district, the property at 2122 to 2136 North Highland Avenue.
Again, the planning commission recommended approval unanimously at the request on the October 26, 2017 meeting. And I guess I'll offer the motion to approve the petition of Scott Dreckman on behalf of All Store Inc. to rezone from R3 multiple family residential district to B2 service business district, the property at 2122-2136 North Highland Avenue, and instruct the city attorney to prepare an ordinance for this purpose.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
I do have one question for the city attorney, as Counselor Fisher brought up. In one of these, we have numerous things to go through. Have we ever done that with issuing a CUP or a conditional use permit where the remaining or adjoining property will remain R3? Not that they're in here next year, oh, this went over so big, we've never done that? Or you
No,
don't recommend doing that?
I'm not aware that we've ever
Okay.
done that. I do not recommend that just because things can change.
Okay.
I understand the concerns of the residents, but I don't think you can bind any property that it can never be changed.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Any more discussion? Do we have a second? Yes? Okay. No more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Item 4B, number 4, consider resolution approving with conditions the application from Scott Dirkman on behalf of All Store Incorporated, requesting a conditional use permit to allow storage facilities on the property Zone B2 at 2122 to 2136 North Highland Avenue.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion?
With conditions.
With
With
conditions?
excuse me.
Okay. Any more discussion? Seeing none. Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 3B, number 5, consider a motion approving with conditions the preliminary plat of Dirkman's Second Edition located in part of the northeast 1/4 of the southwest 1/4, Section 13, Township 10 North, Range 31 West.
Motion to approve with condition the preliminary plat of Dreckman Second Edition located in part of the northeast quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 13, Township 110 North, Range 31 West.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, Dave. Item 4A, consider a motion approving the issuance of an annual Sunday liquor license for Pepper Boy Foods Incorporated, The Pantry. And that's for,
I'll move the motion.
Second.
got a motion and a second. That's for November 8th, 2017, and ending June 30th, 2018. No more discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 4B, consider a motion approving issuance of a lawful gambling permit for the New Ulm Area Catholic Schools to conduct bingo, pull tabs, and tip boards and raffle gambling on January 27, 2018.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 5A, consider a resolution approving the provisions of a law 2017, Chapter 1, Article 5, Section 8, 9, and 10, enacted in the 2017 legislation special session pursuant to the Minnesota statute 645.02 and 645.021. Nicole.
This is just really just a paperwork, something that has to be done in order for that sales tax. It's one of the final steps that needs to be done for it to be enacted. It just has to get there before the next session starts, so.
Okay.
I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes. Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 5B, first reading of ordinance number 17-020, fifth series, amending section 2.99 of the city code of the city of New Ulm relative to schedule of city fees. You.
Thank you.
You. Roger.
Ordinance number 17-020, fifth series, City of New Ulm, Brown County, Minnesota. An ordinance amending section 2.99 of the city code of the City of New Ulm relative to schedule of fees. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of New Ulm, Section 1, that section 2.99 of the city code of the City of New Ulm is hereby amended to read as follows. Section 2.99, Schedule of City Fees. The attached schedule of fees for city permits, licenses, documents, facilities, use, services, etc. is hereby adopted effective January 1, 2018, to remain in effect unless and until amended by the City Council. This schedule shall supersede fees previously set by resolution as to items listed thereon. However, the adoption of this schedule shall not be construed to nullify or prohibit adoption or modification of fees by resolution of the City Council or appropriate board or commission of the city for items not listed on this schedule. Section 2, that this ordinance shall take effect and be in force on the later of January 1, 2018, or 30 days from and after its adoption, approval, and publication. And what follows is a length of the various fees, which I will not read.
Thank you.
There are two changes that we found on the Park and Rec corrections. The Harmon Park shelter per hour, the resident without tax is now $20.39, not $20.16. The resident with tax is $22. The non-resident without tax is $22.43, and the non-resident with tax is $24.20. And then on the annual Civic Center, 6 or more members pay additional flat fee. We eliminated the non-resident fees.
Thank you. Okay. Item 5C, consider motion establishing the special assessments for the 2016-17 weed, snow, and water service lines installation and set a date for public hearing.
I'll offer the motion establishing the special assessment for the 2016-17 weed, snow, and water service line installation and setting date for the public hearing for Tuesday, December 5th, 2017 at 4:30.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 5D, consider a motion approving the transfer of funds from the public safety lighting from the public utilities to the city of New Ulm and authorizing the PUC to add a line item on the utility bill to charge the city public safety, charge for the public safety lighting.
Good evening, or good afternoon, council members. Pat Rossi, New Ulm Public Utilities. Regarding the street lighting, this lighting of the public right-of-way is typically looked at as a public safety expense and typically funded through the city budgeting process. And according to our records, back prior to 2004, that's the way that the street lighting was funded in New Ulm. However, at about that time, the state of Minnesota was going through the process of cutting the LGA funding, and I've been informed that the city council was looking at alternative methods for saving expense, generating revenue at that time. And as a result, on October 28th of 2003, the city council passed a motion to transfer the funding of the city street lighting system from a city operational expense to the public utilities. And since that time, since 2004, the PUC has been funding all expenses associated with the city street lighting system. With the increasing pressure on electric rates, we've met with city officials, the city manager and finance director to inquire about the possibility of the city operation taking on the responsibility for the funding of the street lighting system, once again, as an operational expense. We had a few discussions, and ultimately, at a staff level, we decided that that it was appropriate and most fair to our residents to collect the revenue needed for funding the street lighting system through a fee or charge to be placed on the utility bill. And the PUC finance staff has calculated that in order for the street lighting system to be self-sustaining with respect to energy, maintenance of the standards, and the maintenance and capital improvement of the lights themselves, we need to have a fee of $4.50 per address, and this will cover all the funding required. So we followed this up with the Public Utilities Commission at our meeting last month on October 23rd. Public Utilities Commission passed a motion that would remove a current $2 component of our customer charge. So we're reducing the customer charges that each electrical customer pays by $2, and then developing this new $4.50 charge. So we're planning to install this $4.50 charge on the utility bills starting in January, and it would really be a charge that we would collect on behalf of the city, transfer the funds to the city finance department, and then bill the city finance department for work done on the street lighting system and for energy throughout the year. So I believe in our discussions with the finance director of the city and the city manager, they're in agreement with this method of funding the street lighting system.
Thank you. Any comments, concerns?
I guess I've always had a concern about this. I always think that this is just another way of taxing without taxing. So I do have some issue with applying it on a utility bill and not taking that over on the tax side. But
If, Mr. President, if I may be heard, I apologize to Mr. Rossi. I didn't speak to you about this before this meeting. One concern I might have is kind of along the lines of what Councilor Fisher has brought up, and I know that various cities had done this in the last few years for setting aside money for their street improvements, and they've subsequently found out that that's not lawful. I realize that this is for public utilities expense, but I think anytime you start paying it to the city, they prefer to see that as a tax. If it's part of the utility bill, it's part of utilities. But if it's getting paid to the city across the board, I don't know if that's going to be an issue or not. I have not researched it. I don't know if other cities are doing this without any problem.
I'm familiar with at least one community in the Twin Cities that does this. You know, it's a community that doesn't have a municipal electric and gas utility like we have here. They have a water and sewer utility, and they have a quarterly bill for water and sewer, and they charge for both residential street lighting and commercial corridor street lighting as a quarterly charge on their utility bill.
Okay.
So that money's then collected and paid out to the investor-owned utilities that operate in those cities, Excel.
Well, I think it is distinctive to the extent that it is something that's going for a recognized charge that the PUC has been able to calculate as far a reasonable basis for determining why it's $450. So again, I don't know that it's going to be a legal issue to do it this way, but it is
Aren't we
different.
doing something similar already with the water, where the utility is collecting it and it's get turned back over to the city for future expansions and stuff like that, I thought, or repairs?
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. President. We have a infrastructure charge, monthly infrastructure charge, and I don't know the exact amount right now. I believe it's around $4.25 a month. We're collecting revenue that goes into an account and eventually pays for the reconstruction of the city water and sewer lines.
Because I remember when that was established several years ago, too.
So Pat, on everybody's bill right now, they see a $2 streetlight charge.
They see a customer charge. It's a metering charge. It's the fixed charge per month. I believe it's $9 per month
So that
right
would-
now. So that would be
would drop
reduced
by
by
$2.
$2. However, I don't know if in 2004 the $2 was covering all of the charges associated with the street lighting system, but with our calculations that we've done recently, we've determined that we're actually paying out a significant amount more than that. The street lighting system's costing us all in just under $400,000 a year. So the $2 is capturing about half of the revenue, not quite half the revenue.
So you're kind of answering my next question, that $450 per address would bring in what type of revenue?
Well, it would bring in about, it looks like a plan for 2018, $378,000.
Okay. In your estimation, then, that would cover our current lighting, streetlight costs? Or
that's-
would it be more, or would it be less?
It would be for it's going to vary
Sure,
on a
I
yearly
understand.
basis, but we're anticipating for 2018 about $75,000 in maintenance expenses, $140,000 in capital expenses, and about $140,000 in energy expenses. So we'll be collecting about $378,000, and our anticipated expenses for 2018 are just, well, they're about $355,000, so a little bit more than the anticipated 2018 revenue. We hold the fee and monitor the situation on an annual basis and make adjustments to the fee as appropriate.
So you keep answering my next question. So the next question then, would there be adjustments as we move along here, up or down as utilities? So would each year there be an addition of a quarter or a dime, or would it just stay this amount for 5 years? Or what's the discussion in that category?
In our projections of expenses, we've assumed a rate of increase, cost increases of 3% going forward with respect to our current level. So the 2016 year being the most recent full year. However, we are upgrading our street lighting equipment from high pressure sodium to LED fixtures that are much more efficient. So we're expecting our energy cost to decrease going forward, and also the life expectancy of the LED fixtures is quite a bit longer. So we're anticipating future reductions in those costs.
Right. I'm assuming we're going to have to table this tonight till our counselor can review this. I would assume that's probably the route we're going to have to go, because we can't really pass it without your research.
If you want to do that, sure,
I would.
that's your decision to make, so.
So again, another question is people look at those utility bills pretty specifically, and they're going to see that increase, and you're going to get phone calls. So my question is, how do you plan to educate the public if this does pass, and so they are educated on what's going on and what's going to be new?
We had anticipated posting information regarding the change on the city website, in the public utilities newsletters, and then also sending out a bill stuffer with information about the change.
Why it's
Yep.
changing. All right, thank you.
I have one more question,
Yes.
please. So is it per meter or per address?
We have decided that we would place the charge per address with an account. So we know that some addresses have 2 electric meters, for instance. They wouldn't get 2 charges. They would get 1 charge for.
So
for
then
that
if
service.
a business has a whole block and they would get one $4.50 charge, or
If a business has.
like, a 3M?
Right. I believe that they would get one $4.50 charge.
Okay, then Mr. President, may I ask one question, or Mr. Rossi? Just so I understand the background of this and the intention, with the schedule that staff has put together as far as the estimated future costs that would be drawn from this fund, there's maintenance, capital, energy. Would the maintenance and the energy components then be paid by the city back to public utilities?
That's the way that we've anticipated that this would work.
And then the capital would be a reserve for future expenses that would be
Correct.
maintained?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I can add too, Lisa, to address your original question about taxing and without taxing. Based on some very preliminary calculations I did when we first started this conversation, the impact of the fee versus taxes would be about the same per citizen. It's not, so it's just putting it in a different place rather than on taxes versus. the
And is
utility
that the case for residential and commercial?
bill. That was residential, so the commercial would see a savings versus taxes versus the fee, but
They would see a
the
savings
fee
on
would
the.
be cheaper for them
Right.
than if it went on
Right.
taxes.
I guess I realize public utilities need their answer before January 1. I'd just like a little more research. I agree with Counselor Schultz from the city attorney. It's all legit, legal, we can vote on it, we're done. It's just that little flag of Counselor Fisher, is it a tax, it is a fee, can we do this? And a little more on and I realize 3M and Kraft pay a lot of taxes, whatnot, but is the calculation correct? I've got 8 city square blocks of street lighting and I pay $4.50. I've got 50 feet and I pay $4.50. I'd rather see it looked at a little more in depth.
Well, I could just throw a twist. I live on Camel's Back Road. We don't even have streetlights. You know, I'm just throwing a wrench in there. You know, Camel's Back and Flanders Lane, have no streetlights.
I realize it's all,
We've tried to have them installed, and they always got rebuffed by those residents.
Yeah, that was before I was there, but I mean, I'm not trying to put them in, but I'm
You gonna
just,
take up a
you know,
petition now?
you know, no,
and I realize it's public safety, I mean.
correct.
Patrol cars,
Right.
fire trucks, ambulances, general public traveling, they travel all the streets in the
Right.
city, I realize that.
Well, and I don't know if we have a hard, definite January 1st date, do we? I mean, why couldn't it be February or March if we have our
It'd be an annual
You review.
expense, I think it should be
annual
done.
expense? But we could approve,
I would anticipate that the city attorney's office should be able to
Right.
ascertain the legalness of this. There are other cities than just one out there that do
Right.
this, so this is not an uncommon item. As was told to me one time, if it was inappropriate, you would think an auditor in one of those communities would have
Right.
said, hey, you can't do this kind of thing.
Right.
But I think.
let's double check and make sure.
2 weeks delay on this
I
would
would.
not be the end of the world.
I would definitely get a report to the council before the next meeting.
All right, I'm
so-
going to offer a motion to table this item for further information, and it'll be brought back at the appropriate time.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to table it. Any more discussion?
I have one more question for Pat. You had said in the one city that you know that is doing this, that you almost sounded like they had two different rates, residential and commercial, or how did they break
Yeah,
up?
they have a separate, it's under one category, but they have two line items, two separate charges. One charge associated with residential
Yeah.
area street lighting and one with commercial corridors. And I assume it's because there may not be, customers along that or different style of lighting, more intensive lighting along the commercial corridors that typically will have a more heavy pedestrian use there.
Do you think we could get more information on how they determined or more
Certainly.
on that rate?
We can do that.
And for me, I think too, that it's illegal. I mean, I think that we are doing it legally right. I think that we can do it. To me, it's just a philosophy thing, and that it's just another way of taxing. So I feel that we're doing it correctly. I mean, legally.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carried. Item 5E, consider a resolution to accept donations from the Brown County Healthy Communities, Healthy Youth to be used toward the Shop with a Hero program.
I'll offer the resolution and waive the reading, accepting the donation from Brown County Healthy Community, Healthy Youth in the amount of $2,500 to be used towards the Shop with a Hero program.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion?
Great program.
Yeah, thank you.
Seeing none, Nicole, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 5F, consider motion authorizing renewal of the snow removal agreement between the Nicollet County and the City of New Ulm relating to the winter maintenance of County State 37.
I'll offer that motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Been doing it for many, many years.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 5G, consider a resolution to allow two existing structures to remain partially within the city easement located at Lot 1 and 2, Block 1, Front Street Industrial Park, Second Edition. Mr. Kaler?
Thank you, Mr. President. As stated in the request for council action form, this pertains to Lot 1 and 2, Block 1, Front Street Industrial, Second Edition. It's basically the Shelter Products Complex. The current property owner commissioned or received a land survey which depicts two, what I would describe as outbuildings intruding slightly into one utility easement and into a trail easement in another area. If you can scroll down to your diagram, the Alta survey, it's probably the best place to see. If you got that up on top, there's a steel pole building that's highlighted in yellow, and there's a little red rectangular box there that's intruding into an existing utility easement. And further down, there's a building that's on vacated 8th North Street that's intruding into a trail easement. when we constructed the trail, we actually avoided that building, and we got a limited use permit from the state of Minnesota to be within their right-of-way. The property owner has asked the city to allow these two structures to remain as is for purposes of a land sale, as I understand it. And I don't have an issue with that, other than I wouldn't want it to be a perpetual permission. Sometime if the building blows down or is removed, I think it should be taken out of the easement area. So that's the short version of the story. If you have any questions, or perhaps the city attorney has some comments.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assistant City Attorney Borgen prepared a license agreement, at least so that the property owners could consider what we would be recommending for the terms if the council agrees to allow the exceptions. One thing I would note is I think that Mr. Dove's letter is incorrect. I don't think that the main building encroaches on either the trail or utility easement. I think it's two smaller outbuildings. But with that correction in mind, the proposed agreement that we prepared is in line with what the city engineer has recommended, and it would indicate that the permission would terminate if the buildings have not been used for any use for 12 consecutive months or been abandoned, if the buildings are destroyed, and if they would be relocated by the owner. So I think if there were those conditions, if the city otherwise decides to allow it, we'd be ready to move forward and confirm those terms with the attorneys for the property owners.
Any more discussion? Name and address for the record, please.
Dwayne Lambrick, 1011 Lambrick Lane. I happen to be the owner of the properties. The second building, Lot 2, there is an issue with the building is not actually on the bike trail. The bike trail was put under the building. Building was built in 1990. The bike trail easement, I believe I signed it in 2002 or 2003. So it was there long before the bike trail ever came about.
Mr. Lombrick is correct. We obtained the trail easement, as I believe in 2004. And the
That was 2003.
Lombricks were very
4.
gracious in accommodating us with that. We got what I would call an L-shaped easement through the back, the north-south, and then as well in the east and west. That was obtained through a consultant that hired a sub-consultant to survey that out, and after we had it signed and delivered, we went out to stake it and figured out it wasn't going to work. So like I suggested, we got a limited use permit from the state and rerouted the trail away from that building. So currently it does not affect the trail, but as you notice, the building is actually on the utility easement that comes around the corner as well. So it is intruding into another easement.
Yeah, but just for clarification on the
You're
trail easement, there was a 13, 14-year difference
It was not your fault.
between it.
Make sure the record reflects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, what do we need to do here? Do I need to approve both of these?
Mr. President, I might add, there are several other utility easements that have PUC and city facilities through them. These particular easements do not have anything in them, but I guess I'd like to preserve them for the future.
Do you want both of these approved? Yep. I'll take a stab at the first and offer a resolution, waive the reading, allow a portion of the steel pole building to remain as currently constructed within the utility easement located on Lot 1, Block 1, Front Street, Industrial Park, Second Edition for the remainder of its useful life, and direct that a written agreement be prepared for that purpose.
Second.
We got a motion and a second offered resolution, waived reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries.
I'll go ahead and just offer the second one, offer the resolution to waive the reading to allow a portion of the building as constructed within the trail easement located on Lot 2, Block 1, Front Street, Industrial Park, Second Edition for the remainder of its useful life, and that we direct a written agreement be prepared.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 5H, consider resolution approving the MnDOT Office of Aeronautics Grant Agreement Number 1029714. Mr. Gaylor?
Mr. President, we had an issue with a frost heave in an area on one of our connecting taxiways that required kind of an emergency repair. It cost $16,800, and the state had agreed to pay 70% of that cost. This is the actual paperwork and documentation that will get us reimbursed for the $11,760.
Thank you.
Motion to adopt the resolution, waive the reading, approving MnDOT's Office of the Aeronautics Grant Agreement Number 1029714, and authorize the city manager and finance director to execute the agreement for and in behalf of the city of New Ulm.
Second.
We got a motion and a second off the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 5I, consider a motion to approve the extension of a 5-year agreement with the Citizens Bank of Minnesota for various banking services.
We went out for RFPs for the bank in 2012. We are in our final year. That current agreement expires on December 31st of this year. I did not realize that was coming up so quickly. So in order to go out for proposals, I would need an extension, I think, with the bank of at least a year to get that done. Citizens Bank has submitted a proposal to extend it for the full 5 years that we're able to do per the original proposal or request for proposal. You have the option to extend. So they submitted a proposal for the 5-year extension. They haven't changed any of the terms that we had, and they actually offered a couple of other services we could utilize at no cost if we chose to. So.
Go ahead.
I have one question. I mean, on my sheet here, staff recommends the extension contract for at least 1 year. I mean, would you rather succeed a year or go the full 5?
We have a very good working relationship with Citizens. They're very accommodating. They're very helpful. We would be more than happy to go the full 5 years.
Mr. Chair, I understand for your life that would make it a lot easier. However, we have a lot of banks in this community that would love that business as well and probably have good working relationships as well. And I think by right, we have to open this up. And if you need a year to make that happen, then we could certainly approve a 1-year temporary. But I really do think we should open it up to if we go back to Citizens, great, fine, wonderful. But I think everybody should be on a level playing field that can access. I think we have an obligation as city councilors to open that up. So do your preference be that we approve it for 1 year then, so you could prepare?
It's up to the council what they would decide to do. I would need the year, I think, to get the prepared, and then to have that clean cut at the end of a year rather than some random date in the middle of the year.
So they would actually submit the proposals in maybe 6 months. We would then make
We would make the decision well in time to
decision
make the changes if we had to
if we
before
had
the
to
end
move.
of next year.
Mr. President, Nicole, is Citizens going to accept a 1-year extension, or are they saying it's 5
My
years or nothing?
discussions with Mr. Horscheit, I can't remember how to say his name.
Horscheit, yeah.
Yes, they would like to keep our business, obviously, and they've been, like I said, been really good to us.
Okay.
But they would
Yeah, and I have
accept
no
the 1
problem
year.
with what they're recommending. I think that's fine, but I think we have an obligation for other banks in the community, so. So with that, I'll offer a motion to approve the extension to a 1-year agreement with Citizens Bank, and also to look at various bids for 2019 banking. That be right way to?
Yeah.
That'd be good? No? All right.
Second.
We got a motion and a second for a 1-year extension. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 5J, consider authorizing acquisition of the city-owned phone system, phone number change, and internet domain name change for the city and PUC operations. Nate, go for it.
Good evening, Council President, councilors. In October, you received communications and a proposal from New Ulm Telecom stating that the service that we currently subscribe to for our telecommunications is being discontinued at the end of the year, and that we need to move to a different system. Their proposal included their Flex Voice system, which is a hosted platform, very similar to what we have today. It's just a different technology delivering the service. We've gotten some additional proposals and some quotes from other vendors to see what the costs would be relative to what what the telephone company's proposal is. And we found really that we have 3 different options. We can, of course, switch to the telephone company's new Flex Voice platform, but there is also the option to switch to an on-site system as well. And there's 2 different kinds of connection options for that. The differences between the different options, of course, the biggest difference that is going to concern people the most is probably that there is a potential for phone number changes. Right now, we have a whole, I think, 214 phone numbers right now throughout the whole city and public utilities. If we switch to the telephone company's Flex Voice platform, we can keep everything as it is. You know, my extension will stay the same as an employee as it would on the new system as it is today. The in-house solutions would require us to change phone numbers. So that would be if we go with a connection with the telephone company, we would be assigned a block of numbers, a contiguous block of numbers, so they're sequential, and then we would assign those out according to how we needed them to be assigned out to different users. Then the other option is to go with the terminology is SIP. It's an acronym, but basically it's the native communications for these voice over IP systems. And that would require us to change to a different prefix. So instead of the traditional 233, 254, 259 numbers that we're used to through New Ulm Tel, it would likely be something like 217. There's a variety of other prefixes that are available that are also within our they're not long distance, I guess is the right way to put it. So what we're asking for is for the approval to migrate to a city-owned on-site phone system with new phone numbers that are not part of New Ulm Tel's prefixes that they have. We're really requesting that because our cost analysis shows that we would have a considerable cost savings over the new Flex Voice system that's being proposed. Currently, we pay about going over phone bills, we currently pay about $2,700 a month between the city and the PUC for our phone service today. And a new in-house phone system with new phone numbers would be about $2,900 a month. So it's a very similar, it's about a $200 increase from what we have today. There are additional savings because right now we have a fairly high long distance rate, and that would continue with their new system. With SIP connection, our long distance rates would decrease considerably. They'd go from about 10 cents a minute to about 3 cents a minute. So there's an additional $200 in savings there. So really in the end, we end up with about a wash between a new system with non-New Ulm Tel prefixes and what we're paying today. There are, just to take note, there are some phone numbers or phone lines that we would not be able to move away from the phone company. And that's primarily because of either regulations that require it. Fire alarms are one example of that. Or there's technicalities that make it hard for us to switch. So an example of that are some of the modem phone lines that we use that require an analog phone line. Those don't work with the new phone systems. But my cost estimates do include that for the monthly cost. We are also asking for your approval to authorize us to move ahead with implementing a new domain name for the city. Right now we have a very long and lengthy email address, but also our website is also long. It's the ci.new-ulm.mn.us. And when you give that out to vendors and citizens throughout the day, it ends up being quite a mouthful all day. We would like to get your authorization to move ahead with a new domain name. If it's available, we would like to have something like newulmmn.gov. We don't know if that's available right now, but that's an example. We have cities in the area that already do have a new or a similar style of domain name. City of Mankato is an example. City of St. Peter is another example. We would not do away with this ci.new-ulm.mn.us, but that would not be our primary address anymore. So if you were to email me at my old address, that would still go through, but the new one would become the new primary address. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to take them.
Nate, could you just explain, even if the cost was the same with the local versus our own system, why would we want our own system?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things. One is primarily because of the features. Right now, we have very limited phones. I mean, it's very dated technology. They're all analog phones. Some employees do have multiple extensions, so they are able to answer other employees' phone lines when they ring. You can see it on the phone that another extension is ringing. But that's only a certain subset of employees. And those lines cost extra as well. A new phone system would give us pretty much everything that's is possible with a current telecommunications platform. I can give some examples of some of the features, but the primary features are everyone would have voicemail. Today, not everyone in the city and the PUC has voicemail because that's an additional cost. With a new phone system, everyone would have that. There's even an additional fee for the blinking light when you have a voicemail. And the new a new in-house phone system would have all of those features. Additional features are computer integration. So we're able to, your contacts in Outlook, if you have a phone number there, you can click on it, it dials your phone. So there's a great deal of features that we would get with an in-house system. The proposal from New Ulm Tel, it's a perfectly good system. It's a system I would have full confidence in. However, it is a limited system. You only have a certain subset of features that they've decided that customers would like to have, and that's what they've offered. I know that in the future they plan on offering more solutions and more offerings. We don't know if they'll charge for those options down the road. If we go with an in-house system, that we would be a computer system that sits here in our computer room, that would be, we would have pretty much every feature you can imagine with a phone system. We would just get it right then and there.
Nate, when they talk about New Ulm Telecom saying that they are not going to provide support after December 31st, what does that all mean?
So my understanding, and of course I'm going by what they've told me.
Mm-hmm.
The current system that we are on is called Centrix, meaning that all our phone lines go back to the telephone company, and there they have equipment that makes it seem like we're all together, so we can do a 3-digit dial. and we can transfer phone calls between each other and extensions and those sorts of things, or answer each other's phones, those sorts of things. The system that is running on is end of life. I believe that the support ended for that at the end of 2016. So right now we're on borrowed time. So if something breaks on that system, I don't know if there are parts available, and they don't get support from their vendor anymore to get it fixed. So that's at the end of they really would like to have everyone off this system by the end of this year.
And so that means we do need to make a decision. I have some concern that the world of technology is changing so fast, and who knows where things are going to be at. I mean, today, for example, one of the people I work with said, I don't want a desk phone anymore. I'm done with it. I don't need it. I don't want it. And I was just kind of like, whoa, what do you mean? In my world, you always have a desk phone. But the younger generation are like, well, we don't want it anymore. Has that come into play? Have you thought about that much, about where this world's going as far as if we get locked into this contract, or can we change it in a few years if that's where the technology is moving?
Yeah, so the nice thing about going with an in-house system is it is not a long-term contract. We would have a contract for our SIP trunks. It'd be about 50 circuits and 175 phone numbers. And that's what I've seen so far for proposals has been for a 3-year term on those. So that's not a terribly long time. I mean, it's probably longer than some technology moves, but that's not a terribly long time. The nice thing is an in-house system is a capital expense. So we would just buy it, and if we decided that we needed something in 3 years, we could certainly make that move. If we sign a contract with New Ulm Tel, to make it economical, we would at least have to sign a 5-year agreement. They do have an option for a 7-year agreement. You maybe saw in their proposal. 7 years feels like an awfully long time for me because I don't know where the service will be going in 7 years. And I believe you're correct. Mobility is an issue, and an in-house system would have the option for they call it soft phones. It's actually software on your laptop, and your laptop would turn into your phone.
Sure.
So yeah,
that's kind of stuff I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So a mobile employee would be able to take their laptop with them and be able to make phone calls as if they were sitting at their desk.
Right.
Yep.
Do you have a recommendation for us tonight?
Yes, I would recommend that you authorize us to migrate to a city-owned telephone system with new phone numbers and convert to a new internet domain name by December 31st, 2017.
The steps, obviously, we go out and get quotes because it's between $25,000 and $100,000 is what we expect it to cost. So get quotes, bring it back, let the council know what the quotes are and what we're getting for the money, and then move on.
Are we going to be able to accomplish that by December 31st?
That clock is ticking.
That's the
fast.
plan.
Yeah, yeah. The telephone company did say that they did tell me verbally that they're not planning on yanking us off the system.
Right.
They're not going to just pull the plug at the end of the year. They do need us to communicate to them what our plan is for moving forward, and they would like us. I'm sure they would like us to move faster than slower.
So you'll have that bid to us back, not at the next meeting, but probably 1st of December? Or can it get the first meeting in December, I mean?
Yeah, my hope is to have it by then, yes. One other thing to note with this is anything that we go with, whether we go with New Ulm Tel or we go with an in-house system, there is a considerable expense for networking gear upgrades. The expense of a new phone system, should we go with an in-house system, the quotes that we've seen so far have been well within what we've budgeted in 2017 for a new phone system. And so the savings from that, coupled with some funds that were already designated in the IT budget for 2017, should cover those network upgrades.
And I think to clarify, I mean, it'd be up to the city council if you want to see it come back. You could authorize the city manager to proceed, get the quotes, accept the lowest quote that meets, our needs and move on so that we do make the end of the year. That's up to you. If you want to see the quotes come back, that's fine too. Obviously, we're not motivated to go to the highest, quote. We want to get the best deal, so it's just whether or not you want to see it come back.
So Nate, I have a couple of questions. So if you move to the SIP trunk system, the in-house system, then we have no relationship with New Ulm Telecom?
We would continue to have a relationship with New Ulm Tel. We actually have quite a few services with them today, and those would continue. So the services that we have today, we do have our main internet connection through New Ulm Tel. We also have a number of DSL connections in various city buildings and PUC buildings. We would also continue with those analog lines that I referenced earlier. It's about 27 phone lines that remain just plain old telephone lines with them. Also, our managed services relationship would continue. Right now, we do our backup replication through New Ulm Tel, so it's outside of, it actually replicates to Hutchinson, and that would continue as well.
Okay.
We would also continue to pay to have our numbers in the phone book, because it would do no good to have new phone numbers and not have it available to the public. So that's a connection that if you have a cell number, you know that you got to pay like $70, $80 a year to have it put in the phone book. We would do that for all the city numbers
Right.
too.
Are we gonna have time to get this all, the numbers in the new phone books? Usually they come out about March or so. Or are we too late?
Certainly our hope. Yeah, I think it's possible.
It would be a smart idea if we can.
Yeah. There is also the option, and this is something we would probably need to bring back for your approval, but there is also the option to forward numbers to the new numbers. You may have noticed that Jefferson Elementary School did that. I don't remember when they started, but they moved to new 233 numbers, and their old 354 numbers were forwarded for a period of time, and that forward just ended. And I believe the
Alina, right? Alina's,
the
you
medical
still call
center.
the old number, I think, and get where you want to
Right.
go.
Yeah, and that would be a charge that, we could do that for a fee through the telephone company, I'm sure. But I don't have numbers on that, and I don't have any budgetary numbers on that right now.
So
I know, go ahead.
if we take this on in-house now and start doing our own phone system, is there any additional labor that's going to be need to when we move down the line and we decide to do all this?
Yeah, probably not. It's, for the most part, these systems are pretty self-contained. I have not looked at any of the phone systems that I know to be more labor. I've administered a few different phone systems through the years, and I've definitely avoided the ones that I know to be more labor intensive. I don't anticipate there being a whole lot of more work. I did speak with the city of St. Peter about the phone system that they have, and they found it to be almost no labor. In the instances where they did need additional labor, they contracted with the vendor that put in the phone, or they didn't contract. It was, I think they do hourly. I guess I don't know for sure, but they work with the vendor that put in the phone system to make those changes. And we would certainly be able to continue to do that.
So we're going to probably really lose some networking capability as far as, right now the government phones, like I can 759 and I go right to the police chief. I don't need to mess around with the prefix numbers at all. I go right to him, and that is a convenience that I'm assuming we're going to lose.
The city, yes, the county might. I don't know what kind of phone system the county is going to be moving to.
They haven't decided either yet.
For the city employees, it would not be an inconvenience because of the integrations with the computers. You would be able to set up those as all shortcuts. You probably wouldn't be entering numbers. You'd be clicking a name, more than likely.
Okay. Well, what do we want to do, folks?
I guess I would be in favor of moving forward and actually authorize the city manager to get going on it so we get it done. The more we drag it out, the longer it takes.
Do we want to have a cutoff or at a certain amount? If it hits X amount, it's got to be brought back to us? If we're going at the lower amount, we probably don't need it.
Yeah. That work with you, Nate?
Yep, to authorize us to move forward with the city manager.
Yeah. And
That,
then,
that works for me, absolutely. You know, everything I've seen so far, we've been well under the budgeted amount between the two organizations.
well, I guess if a quote comes back that's out of line or whatever, you can always bring it back to the city council
Oh,
regardless.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So I'll go ahead and offer a motion then that we migrate to a city-owned system with the new phone numbers and absolutely get rid of that internet domain name, because I've never liked that, by December 31st, 2017. I'll add to my motion that if the budget, the lowest bid comes in over $69,000, it should come back to city council. Otherwise, we're authorizing the city manager to proceed.
Second.
That work?
Got a motion and a second, any more discussion?
Could you give me 70,000? Just round it to 70.
I would just go on what it said there. I'll be fine with amending that to 70,000.
Thank you.
Next time it'll be $69,421.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 5K, consider authorizing the city manager to solicit requests for proposals for the provision of the local insurance agent services for policy year 2019. Brian?
Yeah, among other things, like the bank proposal, this was just another one of those things that was set up. We had a local agent ask if they could put in a quote to perform the local agent services for the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust policies that we utilize for both the city and the PUC. Given the timing, this should have probably been done earlier in the year also, that we would schedule this for the same format, that we would get quotes by the mid-year of 2018 and then transition for the renewal for 2019. The only question that really comes out of this, given that the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust basically does, most everything directly with the city staff, they do like to have a local agent. So you're really just talking about what's the local agent's, percent. What are they going to quote so that you can put it into the League of Minnesota Cities insurance cost, and then they send the bill out. So there's not a lot of additional work that the agents really have to do other than just be the liaison. So all we'd be looking at in the RFP is what do you need to do the liaison work? Because we do so much work directly with the League of Minnesota City Insurance Trust and our, not the agents, but the people that come out and look at the incidents and things of that nature. I can't think of what that term is called. We deal with them directly. It's just when there's a problem, for the most part, that the local agent gets involved. So that was my recommendation, is that we've already got the current renewal in for the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust, so it's kind of like the issue has left the barn, so to speak. So in order to get prepared for next year, get quotes, get our paperwork, get our quotes, get them done by June, so that the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust can then utilize our agent of choice to deal with the renewal aspect of it.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion? Entertain a motion.
I'll offer a motion to authorize the city manager to solicit RFPs to handle the local insurance agent activities associated with the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust policies associated with the city of New Ulm and the New Ulm Public Utilities.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
We're talking about the same timelines as we talked about with the financial, though,
Right.
correct? That's the understanding of the motion and stuff. Okay, thank you.
No more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 6A, consider acceptance of a list of claims paid and approve a list of claims to be paid. Claims paid in the amount of $807,919.44, and a claim to be paid in the amount of $1,088,166.13.
I'll offer the motion.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. We got an addendum. I almost was going.
I'll offer a motion to suspend the rules for action on the addendum.
Second.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Suspend the rules. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. I'm stalling here because I can't find it. Okay, there we go. New business, consider issuing a liquor permit to the New Ulm Area Chamber of Commerce Green Mill for dispensing of alcohol at the New Ulm Civic Center, 1212 North Franklin Street, Meeting Room, a city-owned building, for the public event to be held on Friday, November 17, 2017.
I'll offer the motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion to second, any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just real briefly, there's been some talk about the city code section 5.5 regarding the law enforcement perspective, and I don't know if it's just there's different rules with different events, but when I read the code, it basically states that law enforcement officers are to be provided as determined by the chief of police. It's not just an automatic, you must provide security. It doesn't say that. At least my interpretation of that statute doesn't say that at all. We already have New Ulm Steel up there, already has a security person patrolling that upper hallway. It doesn't make any sense for us to say that they have to have more security for that little room. So, but I don't think we need to change anything based on what I read, and certainly our counselor can tell us differently, because our policy says that have security personnel as approved by the chief of police. Am I correct on that?
That's what subdivision H of section 5.
If we're using a city building,
Right.
that it's not automatic, you must have security there. It says that the chief of police decides that. I mean, if it's a fundraiser for the Oak Hills, I don't assume we're gonna need a whole lot of security there. Just different types of events. You're not gonna need security for some, and for others you might. I don't know,
And I believe that's the reason the language is there. But this is two different liquor licenses at two different parts of the building. And to say one liquor license now has to cover the other liquor license, I don't think would be appropriate. One is a liquor license to the New Ulm Steel, of which they have contracted with a vendor to provide services. The other location, which is in the meeting room, is a caterer's liquor license, and that's issued by the state. Even though it's the same vendor, the license actually goes to the Chamber of Commerce, not the New Ulm Steel. So New Ulm Steel is not the liquor license
Right, I
holder of
understand
both
that.
events.
And I
So-
even understand your logic, but
They're-
my concern is that they're basically gonna walk on top of each other. And if it truly is up to the chief, based on this policy, I think he could decide, but I think we have to really look at this as a test for the future, because we could potentially have a future revenue source here of having the steel or other events having alcohol available in that chamber, or in that conference room. So it may be something.
Counselor Schultz, excuse me if I
Yeah.
interrupt,
Yeah.
Mr. President. I think we also have to keep in mind the prohibitions in subdivision F, which is to any person attending a youth amateur athletic event in which a participant is 18 years of age or younger. This is semi-professional, so it's probably not going to be considered amateur.
Yeah, they're
But-
18 to 20.
Right, but I think if the council is going to move forward and issue the permit, and I don't think there's anyone here from Park and Rec. I don't know if they've assigned a room to this, but
Yes.
because there is a license in place for the steel, as I think the city manager has pointed out, we need to make sure this permit applies to the room that the chamber is going to be using, and the attendees are not supposed to be carrying drinks back and forth.
Correct. Unless we authorize that as an option as well.
Well, I think that's contrary.
Well,
to-
the Steele's lease does not provide that as an option.
Correct.
Right, that's in
They
violation
have
of their
agreed
lease.
not to allow that to happen.
And I think some of the concern is what's going on in that other sheet of ice, if that's youth hockey over there, that you certainly don't want people bringing beer across that hallway
Correct.
into the youth
It was-
side.
That was very specifically negotiated with the steel
Right.
to try and clearly delineate where they could sell and dispense and consume alcohol because of the size of the building.
The closer the two facilities become, I think, just creates more of a need to have security. I'm not saying 10 people, I'm saying at least one person. If you've got two licensed areas abutting each other, the potential for an infraction is much greater than if the hallway is neutral. Neither the Steele's beer can go in the hallway, and neither can the meeting room's alcohol go in the hallway. That's kind of neat and clean. I appreciate that aspect of it, and I think you're right. But the Steele's security is making sure it doesn't go out into the hallway.
Or over to the other side.
Well, out into the hallway. That's their goal. They can't let it leave the South Arena. Whereas in the meeting room aspect of it, then there technically is nobody monitoring them going out into the hallway. Okay, so if you had an
Then
officer
that
up
same
there for
individual,
that,
that same security guy is walking that upper level. I was just there the other night. He's walking that entire thing constantly. And yeah, you're right. He's not in charge of that particular room, but he's certainly going to tell somebody, or she is going to say, no alcohol in the hallway.
well, then the bottom line is it's the police chief's decision
It is the
whether or
police
not there
chief's
needs to be
decision,
anything.
so.
If he doesn't think there's anything there, then
And that's correct.
he says no.
His number could be 0.
If his number's 0, we're fine, so we can move on and let him decide. Pressure's on you.
Myron Whelan, New Ulm Police Department. Of all the security requests that come through annually, there is a minimum requirement of an officer. For instance, as well attended and as nice a family event as Herman Fest is in September, one officer required. And it isn't so much as for security. I know there was an event I worked many years ago at the Civic Center where someone went over a railing. And, there's something to be said about first aid, immediate response for other officers to come. Again, it's a cost bore by someone. It's well worth it, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm
Any more
fine.
discussion?
I just wanted to make sure it was brought up. I do think that we want to take a look at, could we have this as a financial investment in the future? If the steel continues to grow and maybe they want to have events up there, I think there's some potential revenue that we could be missing out on, or other things that are going on at that arena. So just something worth Park and Rec's thought on that process as well.
Counselors, one last thing. In review of all the paperwork here, the hours of the event for the liquor permit is 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I think on the action sheet, there's a small deviation.
Oh.
Slight, so.
Well, the room is rented from 4 o'clock till 9:30. I'm assuming that's for setup and for tear down purposes. But given the timing of the application, some of this was on the fly, and we went with as accurate as information as we had at the time. It just got put to bed late this afternoon with all the data. So, but I think for the Park and Rec rental, it's 4 to 9:30. For the event, it's probably 6 to 9.
Okay, thank you.
course, we have somebody here who would know that for a fact.
Uh-oh, there we go.
Nice. Good evening.
Good evening.
It's after 6. Audra Shanneman, President and CEO of the New Ulm Area Chamber of Commerce. First of all, I just regret the confusion and the consternation that we've caused city staff on this issue. We thought we had this all figured out and it was coming together so nicely. But I appreciate staff just kind of walking us through the process and helping us through. We're very excited to be out at the Steel game and to introduce chamber members to this great event that's happening. And it's going to be an attraction for our community. The hockey's great, and so we're excited to introduce that to more chamber members. Like I said, we thought it was going to be easier to figure it out, but we don't mind being the first ones to go through all the hoops that need to be considered. So I just want to again say thank you to city staff for helping us through. We try not to be so last minute, but like I said, we thought we had it all figured out and didn't. So again, my sincere apologies to staff. We will try and do better in the future. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Audrey.
So we got a motion and a second, so.
Okay. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. With no more business?
Oh, wait, Mr. Chair, I wanted to.
Meeting adjourned.
Meeting's adjourned, but we were going to make sure that we publicly thanked the New Ulm Public School. You know, for 2 months, they hosted all of our commission meetings, our city council meetings. They were always prepared. They were always ready. Everything worked wonderful. So I'll speak on behalf of the city council to thank the New Ulm Public School for their support the last couple months and providing a place for us to meet. So thank you.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
officially over. You're way off.
The audio.